Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times. As you guys know, I have been expecting Midnight Mass since it was announced, and of course I had to binge it. I started Friday night, I finished it today, this morning on a Saturday, and I had to sit down to let you guys know what I thought about the show and if you should check it out or not. If you guys have not yet found the time to binge the show, fear not, because as always this video is going to be completely and 100% spoiler free.
It's coffee time!
Midnight Mass is a supernatural horror limited mini-series of 7 episodes of around 1 hour each that has just been released by Netflix, and it was created and directed by Mike Flanagan. The series is centered around an isolated island community that experiences supernatural events after the arrival of a mysterious priest. Flanagan has said in an interview that he actually pitched the first idea, the first draft of the show in 2014 to a lot of different studios, including Netflix, and he was rejected by all of them. But he still kept this story and he had the hopes that one day he would be able to release it, because this is by far his most personal, close to home story, and it's also the first time that he's not adapting the works of somebody else like he's done several Stephen King adaptations. This time he is actually creating the work himself and putting all his heart and soul into it. Midnight Mass tells the story of an isolated, religious, kind of run down island where people are desperate for something to save them in a way, and one day they receive the return of a disgraced old member of the community that returns home, leaving the ghosts of his past behind. Also, the community gets a new priest, and this new priest is very charming and very charismatic, and soon he will win over the hearts of the community. The vast majority of Midnight Mass takes place in this island, particularly also in the church, and it explores this community that had completely lost hope when most of the inhabitants had already left the island and there was only a few remaining that all had their struggles and things from the past that were haunting them. Flanagan is presenting us a community of very different characters, but they all have something in common. They've all have experienced some sort of grief, some sort of loss, and they are looking for a way of redemption. They are looking for something to believe in, and that's when they turn to the church, to faith. As you can expect from a story from Mike Flanagan, his characters just feel really real. The way that he fleshed out his characters and gave them all some kind of background is what makes you really feel what they're feeling. It kind of connects you with them, even with Vev, which is probably going to be potentially the scariest character of the show. Hamish Linklater, that plays the character of Father Paul, was for me one of the best performances of the show. He was one of my favorite characters because he's such an enigmatic and a difficult character to play. Of course, also I love to see Kate Siegel in the show. Her performances are always on point, and her character specifically in this one gave us a lot of relatable moments. Another one of my favorite characters was Joe, played by Robert Longstreet. I just think that his story was just so powerful, and I just absolutely fell in love with his character. The show is really a slow burner, especially the first 2 episodes are really slow, and what we're gonna see in this show is a lot more of deep, long monologues, a lot more that you have seen previously from Mike Flanagan, and I know it's gonna throw a lot of people off, but I encourage you to keep watching past episode 2. These monologues are actually really serving a purpose, which is to create a deeper connection to the characters, the way that you really get to know them. It is just a lot more personal than in the other TV shows that we've got from Flanagan. Of course, in Hunting Hill we got a lot more about ghosts and family. In Bly Manor it was more a little bit about love and ghosts as well, and I feel like this time Mike is going for a lot more grounded, more kind of relatable horrors and fears of everyone as humans. The soundtrack and sound was fantastic. There is a lot of songs that are related to the Lord and to God at the beginning of the first episode, which are already kind of pointing you in the direction that the show is going to go, because it is very heavy on the religious aspect. There is no need for me to tell you how amazing the scenery, the cinematography, everything was. I just loved how flawlessly we changed frames. Like, the editing was just on point. I absolutely loved some of the angles for the shots that were unexpected at times when our characters were delivering their long monologues, and you can expect nothing but the best when it comes to the visuals and the technical aspects of the show. When it comes to the horror, let me tell you that these might be the show from Flanagan that has the least amount of horror, you could argue, but it has something that happened in the first 10 minutes of the show. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but honestly, it's something that I've never seen done before, and I absolutely loved it as a horror fan. I like when something actually is new to me, which doesn't happen too often. We all know that Mike's take on horror is not your typical route, and I know a lot of people are going to say that this show is not horror, and it hurts my feelings because horror is such a broad concept, and we should not be fighting in the community to decide if something is horror or not. I do agree that this is kind of a drama combined with horror, but it is still horror. I am super thankful for Mike Flanagan's take on horror and his modern approach to it, and how he's combining horror with grief and loss and all of these kind of more relatable feelings that make us human. And I just absolutely love it, because if you want to watch a slasher, you just watch a slasher. But if you want a deeper connection with your fears, Mike Flanagan is where it's at. The horror in this show has some supernatural aspects to it. It does have some of the creepy, eerie moments, atmospheric ones that we know from the other Mike Flanagan shows that we previously got on Netflix, but it also gets bloody and violent towards the end, so it will also satisfy people looking for more blood. What I can tell you is that this show is for sure a ride, and it starts slow and it starts building up the island and the characters, and it's setting up clues for things that are gonna come later. You might be able to kind of predict a couple of things, but this show is still gonna get you and cut you off guard. Later on, there is a couple of twists and turns. When we get to the climax, you think you have things figured out, and then you get something else that you did not expect. At least for me, it did caught me off guard. Let's not forget that horror and religion do have a lot of things in common. We do explore a lot of the same kind of topics, you know, the evil, how to vanquish evil. We explore morality, mortality. Like, a lot of things are actually kind of connected, and I absolutely love how Mike merged these two things together. But I also see a lot of people that are really religious perhaps not enjoying his take on some religious things that are brought up in the show. We are exploring in this show really deep, heavy topics, and it's going to be something that it might make you uncomfortable at times, that it might face some of your deepest fears as a human. But that is the beauty for me of Mike Flanagan's TV shows. It is how he basically breaks me makes me fall in love with his work, also gives me horror. It's just the combination of these that just makes me admire him so much as a creator, because he's bringing something so interesting to the table, and I just am mesmerized by his characters and his stories. This one, because it was perhaps a lot more personal to him than his other works, you can definitely see that he has put a lot more effort perhaps on the characters and the storyline and the script and all of those deep feelings and fears that we get to explore in the show than maybe on the horror aspects. But I don't feel like in any way he deceived us horror fans when it comes to those horror elements. So at the end of the day, no surprise here, I ended up giving the show a 5 out of 5. For me, it was just perfection, but I understand that it's not going to be for everybody, especially because of the very slow pace, the really long running monologues and sermons that we're gonna get to see. It is a show that it is focused on grief and loss like his other stories, but also talks about redemption, about guilt, about mercy, about kind of having a second chance after you've screwed up, because everybody in this show kind of has his own skeletons in the closet. If you have enjoyed the other TV shows from Mike Flanagan, I do feel like you are going to love this one as well, even though it is different from his Hill House and Bly Manor shows. But I still feel like if you love them, you're gonna end up loving this one as well, and you're going to really enjoy the ride. There are so many things that I wish I could discuss with you guys. There's so many elements to this show, but it's all spoilers, so I'm urging you to go watch the show, please. And also be careful online, because it's so easy to spoil this show. There's so many things that I would consider a spoiler that maybe other people don't, so either stay a little bit away of, you know, Twitter and Instagram, or just watch it already, because it is really easy with this one to get spoiled. Alright guys, so I hope that you enjoyed this spoiler-free of Midnight Mass, now streaming on Netflix. And now all that is left for me is to wait for The Midnight Club to come to Netflix. It is a limited series also by Mike Flanagan, and it is adapting a horror book by Christopher Pike. It still says that it's coming out in 2021, but I have the feeling that it's no longer going to happen. But my focus now is on that coming out, because I'm really excited for that. So let me know, you guys. I'm curious to know which one is your favorite Mike Flanagan's movie or TV show. Let's talk about his work on the comments down below. If you did not catch on it yet, I absolutely am a fan of his works. Anyway, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember that in order to bring more visibility to the channel, I would really appreciate a thumbs up for you. And I hope to see you all guys, as always, in our next coffee time. Bye!